His handsome chrome dome is shining forth with the elucidating light of 1,000 solar sex panels. It's time for Stand Up Daily with Pete Dominic.
Thank you. No, sit down. Thank you very much. Sit down, everybody. Stop that. Oh, I appreciate it. But please, we've got a show to do, and I'm so glad you are here for it. Sorry we didn't get one up yesterday, but I have two excellent guests joining me today. Dr. Arthur Kaplan, the world's most respected bioethicist, according to me. I've just given him that award from NYU Langone Medical Center. Very excited about my conversation with him. He answered a whole bunch of questions I had about COVID and vaccines and so much more. Always great talking to Dr. Arthur Kaplan. And it's Finnegan Fridays. Comedian Kristen Finnegan joins me for his regular stand-up here on Stand Up to talk about, why did I do that? His regular segment on Stand Up here on Stand Up? That was kind of redundant. Sorry, I don't script these things out, folks. I just fly by the seat of my pants. It's called talent. Anywho. So Christian is having open heart surgery in a couple of weeks, and he talks with me about that, and we go over the weekend news, as we always do here on Fridays, and much, much more. But first, I've got to throw to stand-up correspondent, longtime listener, subscriber, friend of the show, Jeff Hodder, who helps me issue a correction here on the program that I didn't realize had become a problem. But let's throw to Jeff in Nashville. Jeff?
That's right, Pete. This is Jeff Hodder coming to you live from the Nashville Bureau of Stand Up with Pete Dominic Daily to address an issue that has been plaguing the stand-up community since November. I'm talking, of course, about episode number 238. The longtime listeners are wondering, but Jeff, which episode of 238? And that's the problem. Back on the 25th of November, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, Pete had a phenomenal show with new guest Dr. Ruth Ben-Ghiat and the always funny and always angry Judy Gold. It was a great way to get started on our Thanksgiving break. We had 4 days off. We got well rested. We came back on Monday, the 30th, and Pete had an even better show with bioethicist Dr. Arthur Kaplan, an aspirational listener turned guest, Dr. Prakash Gada. What's the problem? That episode was also labeled as episode 238. Back-to-back 238s. I blame it on Schmidt, the former producer. And can I just say, that idiot, of all the idiots, in all the idiot villages, in all the idiot worlds, stands alone above the rest. But I'm not here to talk about Schmidt. Talking about episode number 238. And by double counting it, it means the whole time since then we've been counting the episodes wrong. And if it were the other way, if we'd missed a show, if we double count, we'd said we had done more shows than we had, I'd say who cares? The count's a little bit higher, that's fine. Maybe there was a bonus content we missed, something on the Discord for subscribers only, who knows? But the problem is, by double counting, it means every time going forward, we've said that the show has been less than it is. And I just can't accept that. I wouldn't let anybody else put the show down or anybody else say that the show is less than what it has been. Because what Pete has built between the podcast and the Discord community and the listeners is just something truly special. And I think we've all gained from. I mean, I got to talk to Karen Madison. It's awesome. So let's correct the show number. I'm going to throw it back to Pete now, where he's going to go with episode number 347 of Stand Up with Pete Dominic Daily. Thanks, Pete.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. And further evidence that this community of people is simply amazing. I love you guys. And Jeff giving a shout out to another one of our favorite listeners, Karen Madison, and both of them joining me last night, along with over 60 other subscribers at the Stand Up Happy Hour Hangout, which takes place every Thursday. I love this community, and we've added a bunch of new subscribers this week. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for your support. If you'd like to subscribe to the show, you just go to patreon.com/Pete Dominic. You get to join Jeff, Karen, and a whole bunch more of us each and every Thursday, often with special guests. Last night, Professor Eric Siegel joined us on his phone, on his Zoom connection via his phone while out on his kid's trampoline. It was both bizarre and hilarious while he ranted about Antonin Scalia from a trampoline. And I just think that's probably a first. So what a community that we have created together. Jeff, that was fantastic. Really well done. What a pro. Let's do more of that. If you want to contribute to the program and build this show and make it truly our show together, just hit me up on the email, standupwithpete@gmail.com. Team Stand Up, give me your ideas and ways to contribute, and we will try to work them in. I keep saying we. It's just me and my fake producer, Keith, because I killed Schmidt, in case you weren't in on that joke. Okay, so it is Friday, and on Fridays, it's the day after Thursday, and on Thursdays, I do the Hangout, which sometimes goes kind of late, makes it harder for me to do the news segment, which usually takes at least a few hours. And so today I'm just throwing to the interviews, and I'm not going to say I'm going to do that every Friday, because I enjoy doing the news a lot, especially when I have time. But boy, for me, it's been a long week. I did a couple of extra gigs. I took a couple of extra meetings, did a couple of extra mentoring sessions, all of which is awesome. Love it. Not complaining, but I also can't lie. I am beat, folks. Exhausted. Very much looking forward to the weekend. I hope that you are as well. So thanks so much for listening today, for subscribing, for giving a review on Apple Podcasts. If you haven't done that, please do it now. Oh, and listen to this review from longtime listener Alec Peters, of course, giving 5 stars and writing, I've been listening to Pete for over 15 years. First on SiriusXM and for the past year in his amazing podcast every single day. Pete asks great questions of amazing guests. And Pete has also built a community of listeners on Discord and Zoom where he hosts weekly calls. I just couldn't live without Pete. Oh, Alec, that might be too much. You'd be okay without me. You're going to be just fine. I love you, buddy. Thank you very much. Alec has been a great friend to me over the past year and a half, really. So go give a review on the podcast, and I look forward to talking to you and hearing from you. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Arthur Kaplan coming up. But first, just want to say it's been a great week of shows. A lot of people told me that last night. But if you missed on Monday, Dr. Merton Running Wolf, or Tuesday, Wajad Ali and Nicole Lynn Lewis, who's written a great book about being a pregnant teen and still being able to get educated. A lot of people loved that episode. And amazing feedback and reviews on Wednesday's episode with anti-racist Tim Wise. It's just so great. That was a really great one. I got to post the video for that as well. So thank you very much for listening this week. And now, here, let's go to my first guest. Coming up, Kristen Finnegan. But first, I've got the founding head of the Division of Medical Ethics at NYU School of Medicine in New York City. He's the author or editor of 35 books, over 725 papers. He has served on all kinds of national and international committees, including as the chair of the National Cancer Institute Biobanking Ethics Working Group, and like a whole paragraph more of things that he has done. I can't tell you, this guy is one of the most widely respected in the world, and yet he still joins us here on Stand Up to take my simple questions from a simple man. Ladies and gentlemen, also on Twitter, he's great, by the way, at Dr. Arthur Kaplan, or at Arthur Kaplan on Twitter. That's Kaplan with a C. And I talked to him before the news of the Biden administration saying they were going to open the patents for the vaccine. So that it developed since I talked to him 2 days ago. But here now, Dr. Arthur Kaplan answering all my questions. Great as always. All right. It's always an honor and a pleasure to talk to one of the most respected bioethicists in the world, in the whole wide planet. Dr. Arthur Kaplan, great to have you back. Good to see you. I have a list of issues to talk to you about, and I think the biggest one, sir, is sharing the vaccine with the world. And I don't know what to think about such things, so I generally I first line up with the kind of the people that I normally would agree with on such things. And one of the issues is that during the campaign, President Biden told activist Addie Barkan that he would commit to sharing technology and access to coronavirus vaccines if the U.S. developed one first. You got 170 former heads of state, Nobel laureates. You've got 10 senators, I think all Democrats, whole bunch of 100 House Democrats saying you got to share these vaccines. How complicated is this issue for you looking at this? Is it political or is it pretty straightforward?
No, it's ethically tough. It's not straightforward. And I'll tell you why. Let's go back a couple of months. We were burying people at a very impressive rate. We stunk relative to the rest of the world, leading the world in deaths. You had to step in. What do we got? 575,000 and counting as we're talking. Big problem in terms of hospitalization and deaths. You had to get this country stable. You can't start sharing vaccines when you're at the crematorium every day burying grandma and grandpa. So the first obligation, I think, morally, take care of your own, get stable. Then when you're stable, start to think about sharing, which is, to be honest, that's where we are just about now.
Well, I'm conflating issues. Sharing vaccines versus sharing the patent. I'm talking about sharing the patent.
All right. So look, on that score, it's also difficult, although I want to come back to the sharing more generally, but, and I can, because I'm the guest, but, and why not? But look, for the patent stuff, I think to me, it's a little bit of a red herring. If you said to me, if there's a plague, should pharmaceutical companies think first about protecting their secret information? No. I mean, they should try to share it and knock out the plague. It's special circumstances. It's the world in peril. It's the world shutting down. That said, even if we did give out the secret formula to whatever vaccine, very few countries can make it. India, maybe. They got the Serum Institute that's pretty good. Maybe Vietnam. What you want to really do is this. Here's my proposal. Tell the pharmaceutical companies they got a partner, say Sub-Saharan Africa, you're partnered up with Pfizer, and you're going to build a factory, and you're going to let that factory make vaccines and give them away, because they ain't going to build a vaccine. They're going to make a vaccine, or they won't have any unless you go there and give them the capacity. It's this old business about teach a man to fish kind of thing. I don't want to keep giving them vaccines out of the goodness of my heart. I want them to make vaccines. Huge number of those countries are never going to be able to afford them anyway. So what are we talking about? There's no market in Malawi for that. Even if they came in and they cost $1, they can't afford them. Partner up, share the ability to manufacture, keep your markets with the rich guys, fight out the prices with us. But let's at least set up an infrastructure for the next pandemic, because to be honest, it's too late for this one, where they're ready to partner up and divvy the world and say, your responsibility, you rich pharma company, is to get Sub-Saharan Africa vaccinated.
What about someone like Greg Gonsalves, Yale epidemiologist, saying Biden's not being bold on this? They said this during the AIDS epidemic, too. All the same excuses are coming up from 20 years ago. Are activists and people like him, are they making it, are they simplifying it too much?
Yeah, I mean, I think they get a point. Every big outbreak, HIV, swine flu, whatever the heck it is, we're winding up arguing about intellectual property, and the pharma companies draw the wagons around. But again, my point is, if I give the secret formula to the Pfizer vaccine to over half the countries of the world, they'll read the formula while they die. I mean,
it's like giving someone a recipe for your favorite dish, but they don't have any of the ingredients.
No ingredients, no oven, no nothing. So let's come up with a little more clever idea. Build them the darn factory, make sure the ingredients go there. And to do business when pandemics occur, your problem, pharma company, is to keep your part of the world covered. That's built into your price.
So let's come back to the sharing issue. I read a couple of days ago, the Blackfeet Indian Reservation inoculated most of their members. And so they're right there on the Canadian border. And so they gave 700 vaccines to the Canadians. What about sharing? You were talking about it.
Certainly not to the Canadians.
You're saying no. You're saying never share with Canadians? Is that your general?
Look, they drink bad beer and they live in cold places. They're clearly, shall we say, hindered in their judgment. Wouldn't want to aid them.
It did sound surprising, and it does sound surprising, by the way. We can joke, but like that Canada and my friends in Australia and some of these other countries that are way ahead on all of these other policies, from social distancing to masking to shutdowns, they got that right in terms of trying to stop the spread. I mean, I'm not saying it was without controversy. It certainly wasn't. But they did great there. But yet they haven't been able to get the vaccine or vaccinate people. I don't understand why that is.
Partly they bet on a vaccine that turned out to have some of those side effects that had to be examined, the blood, brain emboli. And so they slowed down there. And they only had one vaccine I think Canada purchased like 10 times as much as they wanted, but it turned out to be the one that was slower to get there. So they didn't have Pfizer, they didn't have Moderna. We bet on all of them. We could argue about whether that was the cheapest way to go. But anyway, throwing a ton of money into all these vaccine companies gave us like 6 or 7 choices. That's why we got rolling much faster. All that said, look, I love the fact that they're helping. You know, there was a North Dakota governor We said we'll help the truckers in Manitoba who go back and forth. We got more vaccine. We're going to give it. That's great. That's noble. That's generous. It's just not enough of a policy to really solve much. It just shows some nice behavior. Don't mean to condemn it. It's great. But what we never figured out, and the only reason we're not screaming about it, is we had a terrible rollout in this country. We couldn't figure out who went first, and people were cheating, and the whole thing got to be a mess in a lot of places. And then we just got enough vaccine. So we wound up wondering, why aren't you taking the vaccine? Because everybody who wanted one wound up getting one after a couple months. But remember the happy days when people said, I don't know, the smokers go ahead of strippers. Are you an essential worker because you're a bioethicist? Who cares about you? Who needs you? And other people were sort of saying, yes, I really am 75 years old. You don't look 75. So we had a little lesson, I think. We'll have to go back and re-examine it, and how Americans both think about who's important and something else that we hate to discuss. We'll talk race all day, class, and are the rich doing better than the poor? We don't like talking about that. And the rich were having a fine old time jumping to the head of the line.
Yeah.
It tells us something that we don't like to look at. Guess what? The rich do better than the poor. Forget about race.
You're a bioethicist. How do you feel about eating the rich? I hear that phrase a lot. Where are you on that?
This is Jonathan Swift kind of solution. Just the issue is what recipe. Sure.
Let me ask you about real quick about India. I mean, it's what's happening there is pretty horrifying, and we can talk about it, I'm sure, for hours. But one of the things I heard that really kind of stuck with me from a doctor over there being interviewed by my friend Ali Velshi over the weekend, a Washington Post journalist, was basically, she said, people are dying because they're running out of oxygen. That's murder, I think is how she put it. I read this morning that 6 people died because they ran out of oxygen. What does that mean? Why is she so extreme in that kind of rhetoric to say that running out of oxygen is murder? What do you make of that?
Well, it means that what happened in India partly was they let down their guard. The leadership said, we'd solve COVID. We don't have to worry about that anymore. And they are a country ridden with class differences. So they thought they were pretty well stocked up in the rich hospitals. They don't care about the poor public hospitals. Oxygen is something that a mid-level economic country like India should be able to get into all hospitals. Government failure, murder. It's the same as saying there are 575,000 dead Americans. Probably 300,000 deaths could have been prevented, and Trump murdered them because he denied COVID. He told us to take bleach. He told us to take other crazy drugs that didn't work. Then he stopped talking about, in the last, 3 months of his presidency, he just said, nope, I'm not going to talk about that anymore.
Well, he's taken every single opportunity he could to spread a lie about the election. So he had no interest in talking about.
I've said it. I'll say it here. I've said it before. Can't wait for the commission to establish who killed those 300,000 Americans that didn't have to die because his administration permitted it. So I think there's been murder here, just like there has been there.
People always talk about the bleach. A lot of people were commemorating a year since he suggested, you drink bleach and so on. But I think that so many things he said, and just want to remind folks that he often said it may just go away. Yeah. And no one told him that. 0 people told him that. It's just he has always used words to win, and that was all he had. But that was such a wildly irresponsible thing.
And he loved warm weather to get rid of it too, even though the thing was breaking out in all kinds of countries with warm weather. Yeah,
there was some possible metric of warm weather, people go outside and viruses are more likely to spread when we're all on top of each other inside. But saying that it'll just go away with that over and over. So let's talk about vaccinating the young people, because now this is going to be allowed. They've got the research. And how do you feel? How do you feel about this policy? And I guess we need to break it into 12 to 16 and then 12 and under.
It's been approved up right now. You can go down to 16. There will be an approval 16 to 12. So we're not close to herd immunity yet, and it's because the adults and the grown-ups in the room are not behaving like grown-ups in the room, and they won't get vaccinated. So, state I'm in, Connecticut, probably the best state for vaccination, probably because I'm here. No, it's a joke. It's about 50% have had 2 shots, 70% at 1. That's not bad, but it's still not quite where we want to be. You want to get up to like 75, 80% vaccination. A lot of adults in a lot of places aren't doing it. I think the 12 to 16-year-old group, which is about 15, 17 million people, could get us there. Not so much to protect them, because it's true they don't get sick as often, even though we do want to protect the few of them who get sick, but they transmit. And if you cut back on transmission, we're going to start to get what we want with herd immunity. If they're going to go back to school, which looks like most places want to send kids back to school, that's higher transmission. And so I think we got to vaccinate them. And what I'm hoping is this. The 12 to 16-year-olds are going to look at what their parents did, what their vaccine-hesitant parents sometimes said, and said, you know what? My world sucked. Didn't see my friends, didn't have school, couldn't do recreation. I was locked up with the likes of you, and I want to get vaccinated. I'm for vaccination. And even if mom and dad say, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm going to find out one way or another how to get vaccinated. If I have to show up at the CVS and lie, or I'm going to go to the pediatrician and say I want to do it, I applaud it, and I think they're going to help us.
Can they do legally? Could, say, for example, my 16-year-old go to the pediatrician, get vaccinated without our permission?
No. But what they can do is get birth control pills, and what they can do is get treatment for venereal diseases. I say let's extend that right to getting vaccinated.
They can get birth control and treatment for venereal disease without permission from a parent.
Correct.
And you're saying that as long as they can do that, extend the same ethics to vaccination.
Apply. And I'm hoping the AMA and other medical groups will come out and say, we'll support you. They want to vaccinate. And here's why. It's low risk and it gives benefit. It's not like they're going to the doctor and saying, hey, can I have some morphine? Or how about you, give me psychedelic drugs because I'm depressed. It's a vaccination with what? We've seen 8 blood clots in 100 million people? I wouldn't say this is like a big dangerous thing to go ask for, and it has a lot of positive benefit. So morally, I'm going to say do it. And the question is, if you're a pediatrician and, your 14-year-old shows up there and says, I want to be vaccinated, are we going to send that pediatrician to jail?
Interesting. I mean, I'm in full agreement with you, and I hope that's the case. I mean, I worry that young people are just not going to get it because their parents, because they don't care, because they're apathetic, or because their parents are concerned about it. And that brings me to, I know this is more a scientific question. Maybe.
So I'm going to just jump in on you. There are folks, definitely kids, who are going to say, I don't care. I'm going to party, and I never cared about vaccinating or this darn COVID, and I didn't wear a mask. And
right.
I don't care. I'm going to spring break or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of kids who say, I want to help. I care about the community. I care about my friends. I care about my family. I know my parents may be nervous in some instances about this, but I think it's the right thing to do. So my prediction is we're going to see them come forward in not universal numbers, but big numbers.
Well,
I hope they pressure their parents.
Well, the best way to do that, I'm just thinking out loud, is some kind of PR campaign that would take place on the place where these kids are. Meet them where they're at. TikTok, sir. I mean, just have young celebrities making videos because our kids their faces are in those screen. I don't know if that campaign has begun. I'm not sure that I've seen it. I guess
no, but I'd like to see it.
Yeah. I know Prince Harry has a lot of sway.
We call it the nag your parents until they give in. We're not asking for a new iPhone. We're just asking to get vaccinated.
One of the big concerns right now is the long-term effects, and that's been a convincing argument. I know you're not the scientist, but still, what do you tell people? And they say, you know what? The reason I'm not getting vaccinated is we don't know the long-term effects. What do you tell people? Well,
you got probably 8 months of data, which doesn't sound long-term, but it is on 100 million people in the U.S., and a huge number of people worldwide. And every vaccine that I'm aware of, its long-term effects have already started to show up at 6 months. There are very few vaccines where somebody says, holy cow, 20 years later they keeled over from something the vaccine did. If you're really worried about it, the newest vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna, their technology, without getting nerdy about it, is so safe. I'm not worried about it doing much of anything. It basically, sets up a phony protein in your body. And then when the virus appears, it attacks that phony protein, the spiky thing that we see on the pictures, doesn't get in your genes, doesn't get in your reproductive system, doesn't go anywhere. And to me, it's just an amazing platform. Also, if you're freaked out about it, remember SARS and remember MERS? We already tried vaccines for those 10 years ago. So you might say it's the same technology in Pfizer and Moderna. It's been out 10 years. Nobody's keeling over.
That's a really good argument. Real quick, incentives. In Washington, D.C., they were handing out joints. They're doing beers and shots, all kinds of any kind of incentive, $50, $100, gift cards, whatever, to get a shot. Is that working?
I expect Tony Fauci to appear soon in a wig and scream, "Let him eat donuts." Krispy Kreme was out there firing up the old donut campaign, which appeals to me, friends. You can't see me, but let's just say I like a donut once in a while. But be that as it may, I think the incentives are great. They're fine. There's no ethical problem to try to reward someone. There's one tiny issue, which is you might feel like a jerk or a sap if you didn't get rewarded and you did the right thing on your own. So we could perhaps give a beer to those who got vaccinated as well as those we're trying to persuade. But here's the downside. The programs that are out there that have tried to get people at work to lose weight, control their diabetes, even just get on a bike and pedal for half an hour at work, paying good chunks of money, $500, they don't work. They just don't work. I mean, people just don't respond to that very well. So, can of beer, get a free restaurant pass for a meal or something. You might move a few. I think you're going to have to get tougher. Those are what I call baby carrots. They're not big carrots. They're little carrots. I'd like to see something tougher for those who are still hesitant. You might be talking some mandates down the road.
Well, speaking of mandates, last question. Your governor there in Connecticut, Ned Lamont, just signed a bill in the law that would end new religious exemptions for vaccine requirements in schools. This is an interesting legal case. What can you tell me about it, and what do you think of this?
So I was in the middle of it. It's my state. I testified. I wrote articles favoring getting rid of the religious exemption. A lot of people don't like it. When they voted on it, probably 2,500 people showed up to rally against dropping the religious exemption. I believe 2,499 were from out of state. So organized vaccine folks will move and show up to fight vaccines because they hate them, and their funding is pretty good. Nonetheless, the thing passed both the Assembly and the Senate here with good margins, positive margins. Look,
all the Republicans voted against it.
Only, I suspect. Only, I suspect.
Wow.
I can't prove. I'm not sure. Mainly, anyway. But in any event, while the autonomy and the freedom arguments were brought forward, you can't use religious freedom to kill your neighbor. So your freedom ends when you're putting other people at risk. And by the way, if I had a religion that said, I want to beat my kid to get the sin out of them, can't do that. Or I want to drive 200 miles an hour through, downtown Manhattan, I can't do that either. And you'll recall, you and I will both remember, that the Supreme Court said, oh, no more mind-altering drugs as part of religious substances. We're restricting that too. Remember that?
Yes, Scalia, I think.
We're all like, hey, all right, I'm going to join that religion. Yeah. There's an opportunity there, but it doesn't happen. So to me, I'll say one other thing. If you go through the organized religions, even Christian Scientists make it a matter of conscience. No religion opposes vaccination. They just don't. It didn't exist when their great books were done and the prophets of their religions were going around prophecy. Right. So there is no opposition. All the religions say get vaccinated. They care about the community. So we won, and it was amazing. We joined California, New York, and Maine as having dropped the religious exemption. Somebody said to me, do you think that's going to apply to COVID and young kids going to school down the road? Yes. I think we will see eventually school mandates for COVID vaccines, maybe not till next year as more data comes in on the youngest kids. But yeah, I think we'll see it.
Do you think this is going to be challenged at higher courts?
It's always challenged. The vaccine people challenge it every time. And they lose every time because both Supreme Courts and state courts have recognized it's okay to set a limit if you put other people in peril. And the state has the right to protect the community's health, even on a firm religious belief. But as I said again, your firm religious belief is, I don't want to do it, because there's nobody saying that Jesus or Moses or Muhammad doesn't like vaccination.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Always a lot more questions for you, but I know I got to leave it there. I really appreciate your time, Dr. Arthur Kaplan. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
And I appreciate your sending me that donut. Once this is done, I'll come back.
What is the flavor? What do you like? I mean,
I'm a big Krispy Kreme guy, so I like those.
So you're there, and there's a Dunkin', and there's a Krispy Kreme. And
I'm on the Krispy Kreme. Boom. But
how do you feel about a Dunkin' donut?
Well, not so great. But I'll tell you this: a good note to end on. Having insulted the Canadians, Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
I'm good with a maple donut from Tim Hortons.
I've never had one, and you're making me want one. The maple donut does sound delicious, and
it's a direct line to the closest diabetes clinic. Just really good.
Dr. Arthur Kaplan, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pete.
Yeah, go say hi to him right now on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, at Arthur Kaplan, Kaplan with a C. Thank him for joining us here on Stand Up. Always great. And I learned a lot from talking to him this time. You know, I got to tell you this, because I love this job. I love working out here in the shed every day, producing, building a brand new program daily here on Stand Up Daily. I don't think I called it Stand Up Daily today. Really not doing good with the branding. And I love working with my imaginary producer, Keith. The kid is usually pretty great. But at some point soon, I'm looking to hire some folks. You know, maybe I'll even build an empire here at Stand Up with Pete Dominic. But when I do, I'm definitely going to be heading over to Indeed.com, because if you are the hiring person, the hiring expert at your business, at your company, what you really need is help making your short list of quality candidates. A hiring partner who helps make your life easier. That is what you need, and that's why you need Indeed. Indeed is the job site that makes hiring as easy as 1, 2, 3. You see, you post, and then you screen, and then you interview, all on Indeed. Get your quality short list of candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description faster. Only pay for the candidates that meet must-have qualifications, and schedule and complete video interviews in your Indeed dashboard. Indeed makes connecting with and hiring the right talent fast and easy with tools like Indeed Instant Match, giving you quality candidates whose resume on Indeed fits your job description immediately, and Indeed skills tests that, on average, reduces hiring by 27%. That is hiring time. I mean, you save so much time by using Indeed, and you can choose from more than 130 skills tests and then add your must-have requirements, so you only pay for applications that meet them. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. So if you are hiring, and I will be, you need Indeed. Get started right now with a free $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your post at Indeed.com/standup. Make sure you go to Indeed.com/standup to get your $75 credit. Indeed.com/standup. Offer valid only through June 30th. Terms and conditions apply. Go now. Indeed.com/standup. And now it is time for me to bring on my second guest, final guest, wrapping up the week, anchoring, headlining the entire program, one of my all-time favorite comedians, and over the last year has become one of my favorite people to talk to, and frankly, a really good friend. I've always loved watching him do stand-up, and you can see him. Just go to ChristianFinnegan.com. Follow him on Twitter, @ChristFinnegan. Watch him online anytime. Download his many albums, because you want to support him there as well. And right now, here's my conversation with Kristen Finnegan. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Kristen Finnegan. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me here on what we call lovingly on Stand Up with Pete Dominic, Finnegan Fridays. Not my name. Someone else came up with it. They love it.
I'm honored to have my own hashtag.
Then it puts a lot of pressure on you on Thursdays.
I know. Well, no, as far as I'm concerned, I've already fulfilled my side of the bargain. It is Friday, and I am Finnegan, and we are now talking. And so now we're just playing with the house's money.
So lots to talk with you about, but a few weeks ago, you told me that you're going to have a pretty important surgery, and you hinted on it the last time we talked, but now you have tweeted about it publicly, and I'm so glad that you did for a lot of different reasons.
Sorry, I have a barking dog. Hey.
This is the dog who wears sunglasses. There he goes. He's yelling at the dog, and I see him, and it's the first time I've seen the back of his head, which is tapered. Like, he's got a great hair, always does, but I see that on the back it's like tapered up. It looks good. I miss those days. He's got a lot of options.
I'm back, and I heard what you were saying about the back of my head. I did get an actual haircut a couple days ago.
Oh, in person?
Yeah, like an actual in real life haircut.
What was that like?
I had one once before in the middle of the quarantine, like late summer last year. Masked and all that jazz. I would say that the stylist was maybe a little cavalier at the time. Which is why I didn't go back for 8 months. I was just using dog clippers at home. But now that I'm fully vaccinated, I feel like that's an okay thing for me to.
In New York City or
in Queens, yeah.
Did they have rules, like all kinds of like COVID-related rules?
There probably are rules, but they didn't seem to abide by. Like, it wasn't really her so much. I remember I got my hair cut and it was late and it was basically closed. And the other stylist and her 3 friends were all just hanging out maskless, like chatting while I was getting my hair cut. And it was one of those things where it's like, I so don't want to ever feel like a scold,
Yeah.
Because people need to blow off steam, whatever. I don't want to be that guy unless I'm feeling genuinely endangered. Like, if somebody was like sneezing in my face, I would say something. But
yeah, I went to the gas station the other day and went in to get coffee, and there was a woman in there who didn't have a mask on, and it was really the first time I've seen that in my neighborhood, in my community, and I wanted to say something, not because I was worried about anything. Sometimes I get irked when people don't follow like the easiest of rules. I kind of want to be like, really, are you special? Like, why? But I didn't say anything. I didn't even look at her. I wanted to be like, why do you not get to wear a mask? That's my feeling.
I know. And it's a hard, the politics surrounding masks. And, we've talked about this in the past. It's really hard not to sort of fall into a sort of battle station about it and to either become needlessly defiant and sort of, I'm not wearing a mask and just I dare you to say something to me so I can go off on you, or vice versa, where it's like someone's not wearing a mask and I am going to take the mantle of heroic savior by confronting this person.
Right.
It's a hard, I won't say that I always know the answer. I don't want to confront someone just for confrontation's sake. If I feel like someone is genuinely endangering me or other people, then I would very at least go in front of them.
You should read my new book. It's Confronting Someone Just for Confrontation's Sake, because I think I might even do that at times. I think I have in the past. Yeah.
I think we've all been guilty of it. You're mad about some argument you had with your daughter or your wife or something, and then you take it out on some guy who, whatever. Some guy who won't pick up his poop on the street. Yep. Not his poop, his dog's poop. That would be weird. I will say this: if you are going to take a shit on the street, people, please carry a bag with you to carry your own feces to a garbage can.
Sir, come on. Really?
It's not so much that you defecated in the street. It's just, please just pick it up?
Sorry, I was starting to say before we got so rudely interrupted by your pup.
Yes.
You tweeted personal news. Excited to announce my new project. It's called Thoracic Aortic Aneurysm Surgery. It drops May 19th. It's a coming-of-age story about a precocious 48-year-old getting his chest sawed open in order to replace a chunk of artery gone bad. This project has thrills, chills, and yes, a lot of heart. Surgeons are already calling it, quote, a relatively straightforward procedure with an extremely high rate of success. I'd like to thank the shitty genes that made this moment possible. #blessed. Why did you tweet it? What was the response?
Well, it did numbers, Pete. A lot of buzz about my upcoming heart surgery. I think it's really rendered the whole thing worth it, quite frankly. We're talking hundreds of likes. So if that's what it takes, I think I'm just going to announce a invasive surgery once a year just to really goose those numbers.
It's funny you say that because I saw how big of a deal it was, and I thought about actually going to step on a nail.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, it's sort of nail. Like the yeah, man. We all have to sacrifice ourselves at the altar of virality.
I like that. Especially men, we're guys talking of a certain age, talk about any of their health related issues. When I opened up and talked about my, I guess, temporary depression after losing my gig, it was really, really great. The universe kind of came and shared with me their thoughts about it. And so I didn't feel like there's anything wrong with it or virtuous. And I felt like a lot of other people appreciated it. And I was happy that you put that out. And I also think that when we share health issues, especially as we age, like other people like, hey, I had that happen. Here's how I dealt with it. So I actually think it's a really good idea to put out there, hey, I'm having this issue or that issue or this procedure. Has anybody ever had that? And it's I think one of the great things about social media, because a lot of people give you all different kinds of advice. So by that measure alone.
I mean, definitely, I had been through the experience once before a few years ago when I revealed that I suffer from something called macropenis.
Right.
Which is where your penis is just too large.
Yeah,
it's just too large.
It's hard, I would imagine.
It's a curse. It's a cross that I'm willing to bear.
And the reaction to that, though, was different than this, I think.
It was different. It was a lot of DMs. No. I have what is called a standard penis.
I do too.
That's the medical.
My joke about it is anybody who ever saw me naked was like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, it's about right. It's about what I thought. No one's ever like surprised, like, oh, it's tiny. Oh, it's big. They're just like, yeah, it seems like the
appropriate. You have a body appropriate penis.
It seems like the parts that came with you they all make sense.
Yeah, factory issue. Like, the earbuds, when you buy like a set of headphones, there's like a few extras in the bag they give you, like if you have like freakishly large ear canals or small ear canals. But then there's just the standard, just right.
Is that why they gave you? I didn't realize that's why they gave you so many. I never figured that out. It's
different. There are different sizes, like not just the ear canal itself, but like it depends which kind of headphones you have, obviously. Mm-hmm. But if they're the kind that fit into your ears, they have different sizes because people have different size ears.
So how are you feeling? This is coming up in a couple weeks, the surgery. Well, I want to get into it. I want to know how you, because we talked about it privately, and I think it was great to hear you talk about it because and then after you talked about it, by the way, the other thing I told you this, when you told me what was going on, does this ever happen to you? This happened to me when I was young. In sixth grade, my buddy had appendicitis, and I started having pain. After you told me about your heart issue, I started having heart pains.
Well, I don't know. Well, then I'm very excited to find out how influential I am. It's quite an honor to know. I have a headache. Do you now have a headache, Pete?
No, but I also, after your macro penis tweet, that had no effect on me, I should say.
No, well, that's a shame. That's a shame. Give it time. Give it time.
I haven't. You tweeted it years ago. Nothing. I check every day.
I'm so sorry.
So how are you dealing with it?
Yeah. No, I felt like I kind of, it's one of those things, and it's a very, it's very of our generation to sort of go through this thought process. But, when you have something kind of major going on like that, how do I reveal this in a way that doesn't feel like I'm like making some fucking big announcement as if anyone gives a shit, because people are going about their lives. I'm very flattered by people who had kind thoughts and words of encouragement, and I genuinely appreciate that. But, I understand that we don't, even the people I know, it's like we're not in each other's lives. Like when somebody I know, like a peer, a comedian, tells me that they're having a procedure, of course I'm going to send them like a note of encouragement. And, hey man, if you need anything, let me know. It's 50% an empty gesture, because not that I wouldn't help them, but if their circle if their circle of support is so non-existent that they're reaching out to me, just some guy they know from New York Comedy Club Friday nights or whatever, then that's a bigger issue, right. But so we all lend words of support and encouragement to each other, but I don't delude myself into thinking that people are staying awake at night wondering how my surgery is going to go. I felt I'm sorry. I'm being a bit, I haven't really tried to put this stuff into words yet. So I'm being a little not concise. I guess inconcise, is that the word? Anyway, the point is that I struggle sometimes with not wanting to make a big deal of things, but then by not making a big deal of it, am I actually making a bigger deal of it?
Yes.
I think by not talking about it, does that then make it that I'm making some grandiose announcement? Like I don't want to feel like, Jenna Maroney from 30 Rock. If you've ever watched 30 Rock, the kind of like, everyone be silent. I have an announcement about myself to make. Right. I don't want to feel like a complete narcissist, but I mean, I am a stand-up comic. And so there is a little dose of narcissism in me somewhere, but I had kind of planned on waiting until about a few days beforehand to really mention it. But I had started to tell a few people in my personal life, and then also my wife kind of had to start to let people know, like her employees, like she's a bartender and a couple people who work door at her venue, and she needed to kind of let them know, like, hey, do me a favor and don't call out these few days, because I need you to be working. So if she was going to have to be telling people about it, then it really didn't make much sense for me to not. And honestly, I just kind of wanted to get out of the way. Just like, here it is, doing a thing. And a typical person cut off from his emotions, like most men, I had to kind of make a joke about it.
Well, it was a good joke. I love the way that you introduced it. Jim David, took it and ran with it about a surgery that he's had, and it was a good premise. I could see more people talking about announcing their procedures in a way like it's a film.
And I got a lot of direct messages from people who have had either this surgery or something like it, which, like you said, is very helpful. But then I also got a bunch of messages from people who had just had random surgeries and wanted to give me their thoughts, which is, again, I appreciate it. But I also kind of wanted to tell people without telling them, as you know, as we've talked about, like heart issues are kind of a thing in my family. My younger brother had a heart transplant when he was 8. And, I know more about this crap. I didn't really know medically about it, but in terms of the process, the sort of, emotion, I've been in a cardiac ward before in my life. And so I didn't necessarily need to be told certain things I just already know.
Right. But I mean, it's a procedure that is, got a very high success rate, and so if you're looking at the stats, but still have anybody that knows a little bit about this knows that having your chest cracked open, the recovery from that is tough. It's really it takes
the recovery really more than the procedure itself. I mean, a friend of mine referred to it as a high stakes tonsillectomy, which feels right in the sense that it's the actual getting to where you need to go is the part that is going to be the hard thing to recover from. The surgery itself, from what I understand, is pretty straightforward. But yeah. So
how are you? Is it the kind of thing like day to day? Maybe like I don't want to belabor it, make you overthink or something. But like, is it? It's
on my mind. There's not 5 minutes to go by.
Really.
Especially as it gets closer, which is fine. I'm not like panicked about it, but it's just like little things. Like I have one of my front teeth is chipped, and every year or so it breaks, and I have to go back in the dentist and get it rebonded. Not a big deal, and I don't have dental insurance, so I have to pay out of pocket for that, and blah blah blah.
That's awesome.
And
good for you. That whole thing is awesome. That you get to go in every year to get that tooth chipped. That's dental insurance, such a fucking nightmare. Yeah,
it's the best. Unless I wanted to get veneers, but you can't really get just one veneer. That looks absurd. You have one?
4.
No, yeah. You have to get. That's what they tell you. You need to get at least 4 for it to look normal. And that I don't. What? Blah blah blah. The point is that I went to get it fixed last week, and my dentist. I was talking to my dentist about the surgery, and he's like, "Make sure that you tell them that you just had dental work done, because when you're intubated, they just ram that tube down your throat and they don't really care. And a lot of people get their dental work fucked up from it." And it was one of those things where I hadn't even begun to think about that. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, right, I'm going to wake up and not be able to talk because I'm going to have like a tube down my throat for 6 hours. And I'm going to be really pissed. And I'm pretty certain they're going to break it because it's like right front center.
They're not going to break it. But I love this sensitive dentist of yours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny. I've known this dude. He was a friend of mine. Did you ever know Andre Duboucher?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a writer for Conan. He was a friend of Andre's, who I knew because Andre and I started doing like the same crappy bar shows and stuff. And so I just went to, I started going to this dude probably 15, almost 20 years ago. And he used to be a swinger, which is weird. Like he would go to hedonism, which is that resort for like swingers and stuff.
I want to go. What? My mic open?
How's Val feel about that?
Fine.
Yeah. She doesn't want to go with you, but go ahead.
Yeah, she's fine with it. She doesn't care at all.
Dude, just two dudes going to hedonism together. Let's plan it out, baby.
Yeah, I don't think it works. I think it's been the whole time building trust, not getting laid.
But anyway, it just so I'm pretty convinced that I'm going to wake up and have a chipped front tooth and have thrown $500 down the shitter for nothing.
No, but that's not, you do what the guy told you. Tell him, careful. This just happened. You know how I got my veneers? Bartered.
What?
The dentist, I gave the dentist like 30 personal training sessions and he gave me porcelain veneers.
That works.
Yeah,
good shit.
Stanley Surguts. Rest in peace, Doc. So I want to also, listen, I mean, I'm, if there's anything any of us can do for you, and especially in the recovery, I wonder if there's anything anybody can do for you.
I don't know. I mean,
that's the thing is that can we do something that would make you laugh? Can we send you some food or drink? A telegram, a singing telegram.
Loud. I'm sorry, I lost the last thing.
The singing telegram.
Oh, that would be nice. Like in Ferris Bueller, like.
Yeah.
Headaches, fever, and a chill.
Yeah. Oh my God, you nailed it.
Because I'm the nurse who likes to slam.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Love that movie. So you don't know where you're going to be convalescing?
I don't know exactly where. I mean, I'll probably be here in Queens, but I might be up. The problem is if I go upstate, then I'd have to probably be by myself. And I don't really think I can be by myself.
See, that's when I'll come over. You'll be like, I'm good. Thank you. But,
no, I'm not allowed to lift anything heavier than like 5 or 10 pounds for the first couple weeks. And then like I asked them, I have 2 dogs and they're small, but they do sometimes pull on the leash. Like if a big dog comes around the corner or something. And I asked the surgeon, I was like, at what point am I going to be able to walk the dogs again? He's like, well, that's really going to be up to you and your pain threshold. I'm like, well, that's not really what I want to hear. I just want to hear 5 weeks and then you're golden. It's like, no, it's just going to be how much can you take?
Uncertainty is hard.
Yeah.
We've learned more in this last year about uncertainty and that it's uncertainty that really does brutalize your soul.
I feel like as comedians, at least for me, I mean, maybe we're different in this capacity, but I felt like being a comedian helped me get through the uncertainty of 2020 with more clarity than people who were used to having their lives more scheduled. I think the fact that I don't really know, I've never really known what the next year was going to look like or whatever, helped me kind of not completely lose my mind.
I can't quite relate only because I had a routine for 14 years. Pretty.
Well, and you had a routine. Yes, you're right. You had a routine and you have like kids that there's a schedule involved with having kids. Yeah,
and that's always uncertain. Yeah, I struggle with it is the point. And I don't know how to do life a lot of days. Like, what should I do when I'm struggling with just, workflow and my life. And I don't plan well ahead. Because it gives me anxiety. But enough about my issues with that. Because it gets better. You figure it out. But I've always struggled with it.
I'm sorry. Speaking of haircuts, you look very smooth today.
Yeah.
You just shaved it? It looks very. Just shaved it. Everybody's a perfect egg today.
Yeah. Everybody's noticing. Like my family. My daughter goes, "Your head looks so much smaller." I'm like, "What a dick." Like
I said smoother. Mine was a compliment.
She's like, "Your head looks small." I also trimmed the beard. I think that might be maybe, part of it too. But yeah. And I was
admiring it. It looks very proportional and like it looks very symmetrical.
The shaven head, the first couple days, it's cold.
Oh, sure. I bet.
It's
gotta be brisk and nice though at times.
Yeah, it can be. It's never really perfect. It's never optimal because the hotter it gets, especially the sun beats down upon it. So you got to be careful of that. Sure. So I recently invested
So you're looking for like a warm, cloudy day.
No, I'm looking for hats.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a ton of hats, every kind. Yeah. And I rarely go out.
Do you wear like a fedora or a trilby?
I tried a fedora for like 6 months years ago.
Yeah, me too. Probably around the same time I did when that was kind of in the air, but it hadn't become totally corny yet.
Yeah, I think I
used to wear pork pie for a while.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, I just generally, it ends up being ball caps or just in the winter knit hats to keep.
Well, they're a pain in the ass. I mean, that's the problem with hats is in addition to sort of the, yes, my lady, quality that they can give off at times, the sort of, I'm the smart guy. In addition to that, you have to have something to do with them. Like when you can't wear them, like if you're at a restaurant or you're on an airplane, they're just a pain in the ass.
Well, yeah, I rarely take it off though, because again, it's functional for me. It keeps my head warm, but I like it. I collect hats too. I also match them a lot. The blacks taught me that in college.
I see.
Because they would make fun of me so hard if I didn't match my hat to my outfit. I didn't understand that. For the whites where I came from, the dirtier the hat.
Still bumping on the blacks, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's who they are. They were to me in college.
I get it. All right. Wait, so they told you
how
that
much
your
faster I could have said black guys taught me that, but it was. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but that is definitely a thing in black culture, matching. And I used to make fun of them because, like, they would wear like hockey jerseys and hats, and I was like, you don't even know what team that is. They didn't follow hockey at all. But they wore because of the colors, and that it matched
colors,
sneakers to hat,
sort of the casual, especially back when baggy was sort of in.
Yeah, but you can't. White people don't generally do that. They don't match their hat to their shirt to their sneakers. White guys don't do that, and when they do try, it seems a little bit like they're trying harder to fit in with like a black style. That's my impression.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are certain cliches are cliches for a reason, but the sort of cliche about like the white dude wearing the shorts in February with the flip flops and the ratty, shirt. And then you find out that he's like a millionaire, that's true. I mean, if I were to try to sort of dress in the way that, a sort of cool, quote unquote, black dude dressed, I would look absurd.
Yeah, I think
I'd be made fun of by white people and black people, like
for sure. It's funny you said the flip flop thing, because I said to this guy, one of my best friends in college, black guy from Brooklyn, Bronx, and I was like, how come black people like wear like so often? I see like jackets and like long pants on a hot summer day. And I was really excited for him to give me an answer because I'd always wondered that. It seemed that I always noticed that. And he just answered me. He goes, why do white people wear flip-flops and shorts in the winter? And I was like, I don't do that. And I don't have the answer, but you're not answering my question either. So I still don't have that answer. No. I got to follow up with him. I want to ask you about this tomorrow night. If you're listening on Friday, is Saturday, and I mean Saturday Night Live, and Elon Musk is hosting, and there's some hubbub around this, and I thought you'd be a good person to talk about with it. There's some apparently even within the cast, some are okay with it and some are not, but isn't Saturday Night Live, like, I guess I'm defending it the same reason they had Trump on, like they are in the PR, like they have to get people to talk about them like any show. And that's why they're having Elon Musk on. It's not for any other reason.
It's not the first time they've done something like this. Right. I mean, they had Steve Forbes on. They had Lee Iacocca host. Brandon Tartikoff hosted when he was like head of the network back in the 80s. Wow. This is not the first time they've done a kind of stunt casting thing like this. The difference now is just that there's social media. And so people can kind of really wallow in it and sort of, roll around in it and chew it up. I hate it because I just don't like that dude. And even more baffling to me is the sort of weird Elon Musk fans that you encounter on social media if you ever say anything untoward about Mr. Musk. These weirdos come out of it, like, who are just, it's even more personal to them than if you insulted their mothers. Like, it's a strange allegiance to this guy who I don't get it. I genuinely don't. Yeah,
I don't get it either. I'm a little torn because I like a lot of the things that he's connected to and accomplished, renewable energy in general. But he seems like one of the most arrogant, unlikable people in modern day society. Like, there's no, I don't know. And also,
well, it's just like it should be enough for you, dude, to be a billionaire. Like, why do you also need to be like? Why do you need to be the center of attention? Like, why are you so pathetically desperate for emotional validation? And I don't understand him. I don't understand him as a person. And I mean, I say I don't understand him. I do understand him. I don't understand why people like him exist. But I know plenty of dudes who are Elon Musk without the billionaires. And maybe I'm answering my own question there. Maybe that's why the sort of cult around him is what they are, because they're people who fancy themselves as logic-based geniuses, but who in truth are kind of low emotional intelligence, cornball, funny guy in the office types, who just think because I'm good at X, that must mean I'm automatically good at U, V, W, Y, and Z. I guess that's why these weirdos sort of surround him.
This is, I mean, I think it's important that you realize this is one of the like most probably divisive moments that you've had here on this show. I mean, there's going to be some people listening that are going to be, wow, you're going after Elon Musk. Someone told me, I trashed him the other day here, and somebody who I love, listeners, like, I want you to know I really like Elon Musk. I forget who it was, but I don't know. I want to know why people.
You know what?
Like
maybe this is a teaching moment for me then. If there's anyone out there who is an Elon Musk like fan, like if you wouldn't call yourself a fanboy, but if anyone has ever called you an Elon Musk fanboy and you enjoy like what Pete and I talk about, and you feel like, you know, we would be friends in real life, somebody please explain it to me, because I don't mean that rhetorically, genuinely explain it to me.
Yeah,
because
no,
I've always assumed that the people who loved Elon Musk are just sort of like Bitcoin dudes who I would not get along with in any other function. They're Rogan fans or whatever. You know, if I'm wrong, and I am often wrong, I would love to hear the sort of case for Elon Musk as a person, not as a, you know, inventor or anything like that. But like, what is it about Elon Musk, the person, that you gravitate towards? Because I don't get it, because I literally have known 50 Elon Musks from various temp jobs I've worked, and I've avoided them like the plague.
I'm excited to see what people come up with and what their answers are.
And if I've insulted you, I'm sorry. It's come out of ignorance. I genuinely don't understand the phenomenon. So please explain this to me.
I'm really excited to see what happens on Saturday night. I might even, you know what the weird thing is? I might watch. I never watch.
Of course. I mean, there's everybody on Twitter was like, why are they having Elon Musk host SNL? When's the last time you tweeted about SNL? Probably been a long time.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens. Speaking of billionaires, this week we learned also that Bill and Melinda Gates are divorcing, and they're going to have to split their $156 billion fortune, and still no word on why they're divorcing. But rumor is that Bill walked in the room and saw Melinda with a MacBook. Is my joke.
Oh, you disguised that well. I was not sure.
You didn't see that comment, really?
Right until you said walked into the room, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a thing.
And she sits on the ballot. She just preferred its operating system. But know what I mean. Why do we care about this?
Again, there's
like Mackenzie Bezos was.
Do we care about this, or were we told that we care about this enough that now we all feel like we have to cultivate an opinion about it?
I think
sometimes I wonder if it's a chicken and an egg thing. It's like, do people actually care about a trending story, or do people see something that's trending and they're like, oh, I guess this is something I have to muster an opinion about now? Because I could give two fucks whether Bill and Melinda Gates are still married. I don't care.
I guess there is always a curiosity about how the super wealthy are different from us.
I guess maybe what I don't understand is, why do you need to get divorced? Like, Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think
you
they
have
needed
billions of dollars. It's not like, oh my God, I can't be in this house with you anymore. I have to get divorced so that we can like separate our one set of china and we can decide who gets the one car we have or whatever. It's like, you guys could stay married and each take $1 billion and go do your own thing, you know, or 50 billion, whatever.
You know, I think they had to, and I read something that they needed to announce it for reasons of just, you know, letting people be aware that that this wasn't going to disrupt their charitable work and everything or something. And somebody said like they actually were advised they should announce it so there weren't rumors because it would affect global markets, something like that. With all of their
I'm sure
investments in the vaccine, especially with everything that's happening with that, and you know, so all right.
Yeah, I've always wondered, you know, when Al Gore and Tipper Gore got divorced after, you know, 50 years of marriage or whatever. And I was just wondering, like, what's on the other side of this for you? You know, you need somebody to go to the movies with, right? Like, how bad is it?
I think it is interesting to talk about or joke about super wealthy people divorcing publicly because you now know there's a single rich person out there. And people are going to, you know, talk about, oh, who's going to hook up with that? You can't. How do you be a famous single person who also is worth a lot of money? And I don't feel bad for him. I don't mean to sound like I have sympathy, but it must be interesting to try to meet someone. Like, are you interested in me, my charitable work, or my billions and billions of dollars?
Bill Gates has not had a conversation with someone who is truly, genuinely interested in him as a person in 40 years.
Maybe if somebody doesn't know, maybe someone has no idea who he is.
When you're as rich as he is, that will always color every single interaction you always have. In fact, maybe his wife is the only, maybe that's why they're getting divorced. Cause it was just like, I don't like this. You're not treating me with the deference to which I've become accustomed. I can't have that.
I feel really bad for their super wealthy friends and who they're going to choose.
Oh,
you know, when the divorce happens, you know, who are you going to stay closer to? Which, by the way, is almost always one or the other. Let's be honest. Like, you can't be friends with both of them equally. You can try.
No, it kind of happens naturally, and generally it ends. You know, I haven't had that many friends who've gotten divorced, like peers, friends of mine. But when it has happened, generally the dude kind of just floats away. You know what I mean? That it's like guys tend to disengage.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if that's a positive trait or a negative trait. It's probably a negative trait. But I think guys, they just tend to be like, I'm just going to go. You just take it, all the friends. I'm just going to go over here.
Well, the
other
thing is, you start casting blame and you have no right. And you're listening to one or the other, and maybe you're not listening to the other, but you tend to side with one or the other and have sympathy for one more than the other, when in fact, you really don't know. Most of the time,
you never know.
Yeah.
You don't know your own like sister or brother's marriage, what that's like. You can never get, because a marriage is about, at the end of the day, the smallest, most silent moments. You know, the way someone reacts when you say a certain thing, a sort of offhanded comment, a way you feel in certain situations. And that's the kind of thing you can never really put into words. I mean, you can kind of be like, oh, you know, she's really supportive, or she's not supportive enough, but it really doesn't get to you would have to literally live in that person's body to really know what was wrong with them.
Yes. I completely agree with you. And I think people don't think about that enough. Before we go, I did want to ask you just this week I spent a lot of time being kind of afraid again, in terms of, you know, the news, in terms of politics, that I hadn't been since maybe the insurrection and since Trump left, because watching the Republican Party, watching this whole thing with Liz Cheney is really scary, because and watching Tucker Carlson every night, like he is kind of I think one of the most influential leaders in the Republican Party now, really. And if they wholeheartedly don't believe in the election outcome, we can try to just dismiss that. But what it means is they don't believe in elections, which could be good for Democrats. Some have argued, but more importantly, it means that they also don't believe in COVID. They don't believe in the vaccine. Like, all of that stuff matters a lot to me directly, to my, to my family directly.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening with the Republican Party in that it's frankly just becoming a party of conspiracies. And you can talk about the white supremacists, but that's harder to kind of pin down. They're becoming a party of just believing in whatever wild fantasy is made up by any of their leaders in the media. And that to me seems really, really bad. What are your thoughts on this whole Liz Cheney being pushed out, Matt Gaetz being still in, and there being a litmus test of, do you believe in reality?
Well, as I think I've said to you, people will believe what they need to believe in order to do the things that they want to do. And to me, it's just motivated reasoning, writ large, or just on steroids. I hate when people say that, but it is terrifying. It is scary, and it's kind of we grew up with those movies where there'd be some politician who was like the bad guy, but everybody thought they were like a great, nice guy. But then they were caught on a hot mic saying like, screw the poor or something like that. And it got broadcast on the TV. Like that was the big clinching moment or something where somebody didn't realize their mic was on or the cameras caught them in a moment. And then everybody was like, wait a second, this guy's a scumbag. And that was like the big turning point of the movie. And what we're finding in real life is that people are just like, oh, okay. We're supposed to believe that now. Okay. Like whatever team they're on, or not whatever team they're on that team. We're not like that. They're like that. But we're like that to a degree. And when I say we, I mean liberals writ large, everyone east of Liz Cheney. What we're finding is that the Trump base, that they are fully post-truth at this point, and it is. Principles are strictly a means to an end of acquiring power. And if Matt Gaetz, if you found out that, Matt Gaetz is maybe not the perfect example because he's not ultimately a very powerful figure. But, if Tucker Carlson, if it came out that like, oh, Tucker Carlson literally tortures babies in his basement and throws them out the window by the foot, people would be like, they would find a way to adopt that into their worldview because he's getting them where they want to go politically in their mind. Yeah. And that is terrifying. There's no two ways about that. My only hope is that if it just shaves off 15% of the people who might otherwise vote Republican, if just a few people, we're polarized in this country to the degree that if you just shaved off 10% of people who vote Republican and had them stop voting Republican, the Republicans would never win another race or like a national race, and so hopefully that will be the result. But I'm not seeing a lot. 2022 is going to be really interesting.
And that is where we will leave it for this episode of Finnegan Fridays. Always great talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing all of the personal stuff. I think it's helpful, and it'll be interesting to see what people think about that, as well as your really harsh criticism of Elon Musk and his supporters.
I apologize in advance.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, dude.
All right, there he goes. Kristen Finnegan at Christ Finnegan on the old Twitter. Hit him up. Tell him that you love him here on #Finnegan Fridays. And thank you, of course, to Dr. Arthur Kaplan. And thank you to you for listening and supporting the show with a paid subscription. Join the stand-up community, patreon.com, or just go to the paid subscription in the show notes where you can learn more about the guests and me and everything else. All right, that's it. I'm out. Off for the weekend. Punching out. Phone off. Let's do this. Love you. Take it away, John Carroll.
You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be told up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.